For those of you who've watched my videos, you know that petitioning for siblings is a nightmare situation. The processing times before the visa becomes available are like 18 plus years for most countries. I focus my immigration law practice on family-based immigration. And after someone gets their green card and I help them become a US citizen, the next question is, do you have any family members who you want to file a petition for to bring them over to the United States? And oftentimes the answer to that question is yes. I have siblings and I have parents who I want to petition to come to the US. So then the question becomes, is that a viable option? When a US citizen wants to petition for their parents, that's referred to as an immediate relative category petition. There's only 3 types of immediate relative petitions. One is the spouse of a US citizen, one is the parent of a US citizen when the petitioner is over age 21, and one would be unmarried children of US citizens who are under age 21. But every other category of petition is referred to as a preference category petition. So now that my client is a US citizen, they want to petition for parents and siblings. So let's take a look at each of those categories separately. Petitioning for parents should be pretty easy. If they're here after they've overstayed their visa or on a valid visa stay right now and it hasn't yet expired, they haven't gone out of status, they might be eligible for a one-step adjustment of status where we could file the I-130 family petition, the I-485 green card application, and optionally work permit and advance parole, which I probably wouldn't recommend right now, and an affidavit of support. We could file all of these forms in one step so that they can go from being on their tourist visa or a visa overstay if they previously overstayed to adjustment of status pending pretty quickly. And currently I recently had a parent of a US citizen get their green card in like 5 months in New York without any interview with USCIS. So I made a video on that. The parent was from the United Kingdom, had entered the US on an ESTA visa waiver program and then applied for adjustment of status after being here for a little more than 90 days. And it was really smooth. Even during Trump, she had no green card interview. If your parents are abroad and not in the United States, we can do the same thing through consular processing. It's not going to be done in one step, but the process is pretty fast where they will probably get their immigrant visa to enter the US as permanent residents within like 2 years, give or take, depending on the country they're from and a couple other variables, assuming processing times don't continue to slow down for consular processing cases. Now on to the second category, petitioning for siblings. For those of you who've watched my videos, you know that petitioning for siblings is a nightmare situation. The processing times before the visa becomes available are like 18 plus years for most countries. So if you become a US citizen, it is true that you can file a family petition for your siblings. But if they're in the US and out of status, it's very unlikely that that sibling petition is ever going to provide an immigration benefit to your sibling. They're going to have to wait until the visa becomes available, which is going to be more than a decade, possibly up to 2 decades. And then once the visa becomes available, if they are still out of status, they're going to probably need an unlawful presence waiver, which is a 601A waiver at the very least. And then they're going to have to leave the United States to attend a consular interview abroad. If all goes well, they could re-enter with an immigrant visa and become a permanent resident on their date of re-entry. If your sibling is abroad and has no overstay issues, hasn't ever been unlawfully present in the US, then the process is a little more straightforward, but it's still going to take those 18 or so years. So you would file the I-130 family petition for them and then just wait. Eventually, when you get close to the 18 years, you'll be able to log into the National Visa Center portal and continue the immigrant visa process for them. The faster option might be to petition for your parents. Once your parents become permanent residents, they could file a family petition for your sibling, assuming your sibling is over 21 and unmarried. That will probably take a minimum of 8 years before they could come over to the US, but that still shaves, 10 years off the processing times. However, If your sibling is married, then your parents need to first become US citizens before they could file a petition for them. And it's gonna take 5 more years, approximately 13 years, and then another 5 years before your parents could become US citizens after entering as residents. So altogether, it's still gonna take a really long time, and that's probably not an option for most families. If you are going through any family-based immigration process and you need assistance, you want to speak to an immigration lawyer about strategy or what you should do if you're going to file it yourself, or you want to see if the lawyer is able to do it themselves so that you don't need to worry about anything going wrong in the immigration process. My name is Puyan Darian. I'm an immigration attorney with an office in New York. I practice family-based immigration law nationwide. I have clients all over the United States. So if you yourself or a family member need any assistance with any family-based immigration questions, or you want to hire a lawyer outright to handle the whole process for you from start to finish so that you don't need to worry, you should schedule a consultation directly with me. You can find my scheduling link directly in the video description below. Click it. It takes like 5 minutes to schedule something. And if you're new to my channel, I put out several videos each week trying to inform the general public on family-based immigration and changes to immigration law and policy under the Trump administration. So if you want to stay up to date and get things from a slightly different perspective from an immigration lawyer who's on the ground dealing with this stuff each day, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another video.